History is filled with secrets. Some are buried under ancient cities waiting for an archaeologist's trowel, but others are hidden in plain sight, tucked away in old books and fading memories. I'm talking about remedies and technologies that simply work too well, or were too simple, to survive the march of modern industry. These weren't forgotten because they failed. They were forgotten because they couldn't be easily packaged, patented, or mass-produced for a global supply chain. They belonged to the land, to the people who knew how to listen to its whispers. These were the solutions you couldn't put in a quarterly earnings report, born from necessity and perfected over generations of trial and error. Think it got so. Before gleaming pharmacies and complex chemical compounds, how did humanity deal with the universal problem of pain? From a throbbing toothache on a mountain pass to the aches of a long journey, survival often depended on what you could find, prepare, and carry yourself. The answers were all around, in the bark of a tree, the bud of a flower, or the simple process of distillation. The knowledge was practical, powerful, and, most importantly, accessible. But as the world sped up, this kind of slow, hands-on wisdom was pushed aside for things that were faster, more uniform, and ultimately, more profitable for a select few. This isn't a story of magic or myth. It's a story of profound, practical chemistry understood long before the first laboratory was ever built. It's about a specific painkiller, a potent tincture that was once the trusted companion of mountain doctors, explorers, and pioneers. This remedy was their first line of defense against the agony that could halt an expedition or turn a simple injury into a life-threatening ordeal. It was a lifeline, crafted from 3 simple ingredients found in nature, and in almost any traveler's pack. Its disappearance from our collective memory is a loss we are only now beginning to understand. The story of this forgotten painkiller is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a clue, a breadcrumb trail leading back to a time when self-reliance was not a hobby, but a fundamental skill. It challenges us to ask what other effective, simple solutions have been left behind. What other secrets are waiting in the margins of old texts or in the folk traditions of remote communities? As we dig into this specific formula, we're not just uncovering a recipe, we're rediscovering a mindset, a connection to the natural world that we have, for the most part, tragically lost. This powerful remedy never appeared in a mainstream medical textbook. You won't find it listed in the official pharmacopoeias of the 20th century. Its history is written not in ink from a printing press, but in the hurried pencil scribbles of explorers and the careful cursive of country doctors. Its legacy survives in the margins of field journals, passed down through family lines, and preserved in the oral traditions of those who lived far from the reach of city hospitals. These were the people who understood that the wilderness could be both the source of affliction and the source of its cure, a duality that defined their very existence. Imagine a lone explorer in the vast, unforgiving Rockies of the 1800s. A fall from a horse results in a badly sprained ankle, the pain a throbbing drumbeat of doom. Reaching into a worn leather satchel, they pull out a small, dark bottle. The contents are not a mystery, but a trusted ally. A few drops of the dark liquid, and the fiery pain begins to subside, replaced by a manageable ache. This scene, repeated in countless variations, is documented in letters sent home and in diaries that were never meant for publication. The formula was a piece of essential gear, as vital as a compass or a good knife. These records paint a fascinating picture. We see soldiers during the Civil War using homemade tinctures to treat battlefield injuries when official medical supplies ran out. We read the notes of Appalachian yarb doctors, or herb doctors, who served their isolated communities with remedies passed down from their ancestors, many of whom brought the knowledge with them from Europe. This wasn't a single codified system. It was a living, breathing body of knowledge, adapted and refined in different regions but always centered on the same core principles and the same powerful natural ingredients that were readily available. The survival of this knowledge is a testament to its effectiveness. Remedies that don't work are quickly abandoned, especially when life is on the line. The fact that this specific formula appears again and again, from the journals of Lewis and Clark to the folk practices of mountain homesteaders, tells us everything we need to know. It was a secret shared not in lecture halls, but around campfires and in quiet cabin kitchens. It was passed from one hand to another, a gift of relief that was too valuable to be lost, even as the world outside the wilderness began to change beyond recognition. The genius of this forgotten painkiller lies in its simplicity. It's a combination of three common, yet incredibly potent ingredients: willow bark, clove, and high-proof alcohol. Each element plays a distinct and crucial role, and together they create a synergy that is far more powerful than any single component on its own. It's a perfect example of nature's elegant chemistry, a puzzle solved by our ancestors through generations of observation and experimentation. This wasn't a random mix. It was a carefully balanced formula where each part had a specific job to do in the fight against pain and infection. The first and most important ingredient is the bark of the willow tree. For thousands of years, people have known that chewing on willow bark or drinking a tea made from it could relieve fever and pain. It was a foundational medicine for cultures across the globe. The secret is a chemical compound called salicin. When you ingest it, your body converts it into salicylic acid. That name might sound familiar, and it should. It's the natural precursor to acetylsalicylic acid, the active ingredient in modern aspirin. The willow tree is literally a walking medicine cabinet, providing the core pain-relieving and anti-inflammatory power of the entire remedy. Next in our trio is the clove, the dried flower bud of the Syzygium aromaticum tree. While we might know it today as a common kitchen spice, its medicinal properties are legendary. Clove is packed with a compound called eugenol, a powerful natural anesthetic and antiseptic. This is why clove oil has been a go-to remedy for toothaches for centuries. It directly numbs the nerve endings it touches. In our mountain remedy, the clove provides immediate topical pain relief. While the willow bark works systemically to reduce inflammation from the inside, the clove gets to work right away, dulling the sharp, immediate sensation of pain at the source. The final ingredient, high-proof alcohol, is the master facilitator. It acts as the solvent, the substance that pulls the active chemical compounds, the salicin from the willow and the eugenol from the clove, out of the plant matter and holds them in a concentrated liquid suspension. This process, known as extraction, makes the medicinal properties of the plants far more potent and bioavailable than simply chewing on them. Furthermore, the alcohol acts as a preservative, preventing the mixture from spoiling. This meant a batch of the painkiller could be made and then carried for months or even years, ready to be used at a moment's notice. In the rugged world of the 18th and 19th centuries, this remedy wasn't just useful, it was an essential tool for survival. For explorers charting unknown territories, soldiers on long campaigns, and homesteaders living miles from the nearest town, a sudden injury or illness could be a death sentence. There was no 911 to call, no emergency room to visit. Your pharmacy was what you could carry on your back or forage from the land. This simple bottle of willow and clove tincture was a compact, stable, and incredibly versatile field medicine, a true doctor in a bottle that addressed multiple problems at once. Consider its practical applications. For a deep cut or wound, the tincture was invaluable. The alcohol acted as a powerful antiseptic, cleaning the wound and killing bacteria that could lead to a deadly infection. At the same time, the eugenol from the cloves would provide immediate numbing relief, making it possible to clean and stitch the wound without causing the patient excruciating pain. Finally, the salicin from the willow bark, absorbed through the skin and ingested, would begin its work of reducing the body's inflammatory response, preventing swelling, and promoting faster healing from the inside out. It was a three-pronged attack on injury. The remedy was equally effective for internal ailments. A few drops in a cup of warm water created a potent drink to combat fevers, headaches, and the body aches associated with illnesses like influenza. For a raging toothache, a common and debilitating problem, a small piece of cotton soaked in the tincture and placed against the affected tooth and gum would provide almost instant relief. It numbed the pain directly while the anti-inflammatory properties of the willow bark worked to reduce swelling in the gum tissue. This allowed someone to continue functioning, to keep moving, until a more permanent solution could be found. What's truly remarkable is how this single formula addressed the most common and dangerous threats faced in the wild: pain, infection, and inflammation. It wasn't a specialized cure for a single disease, but a broad-spectrum tool that improved the odds of survival in almost any adverse situation. Its use by indigenous peoples, who had perfected the use of willow bark for millennia, was often the source of this knowledge for European explorers and settlers. It represents a beautiful intersection of ancient wisdom and practical field application, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of hardship. One of the most compelling aspects of this remedy is its profound simplicity. It required no complex equipment, no specialized knowledge of chemistry. The process was straightforward, relying on basic principles of extraction that anyone could master. This accessibility was key to its widespread use. The method, often passed down verbally, could be summarized in a few easy steps, ensuring that the knowledge could be preserved and shared even by those who couldn't read or write. It was a true folk remedy, designed for the people, by the people, using what the land provided. The first step is gathering your ingredients. You'll need dried willow bark, whole cloves, and a high-proof, clear spirit like vodka or grain alcohol. At least 80 proof, or 40% alcohol, is necessary to be an effective solvent and preservative. For the willow bark, you would traditionally harvest thin branches from a willow tree in the spring when the sap is running and peel the bark off. It would then be cut into small pieces and dried thoroughly in the sun or a dry, airy place. The cloves were typically purchased from traders as they came from the other side of the world, but were a common and inexpensive staple. Next comes the preparation. You take a clean glass jar with a tight-fitting lid. You would fill the jar about 1/3 full with the dried, broken-up willow bark. Then, you would add a smaller amount of whole cloves, perhaps 1/10 of the volume of the willow bark. The exact ratio was often a matter of personal preference or tradition. Some recipes called for more clove for a stronger numbing effect, while others prioritized the anti-inflammatory properties of the willow. There was no single, rigid formula, allowing for adaptation based on need and available supplies. The final step is the extraction. Once the willow bark and cloves are in the jar, you simply pour the high-proof alcohol over them until the jar is completely full, making sure all the plant matter is submerged. You seal the lid tightly and give the jar a good shake. Then, you place it in a cool, dark place, like a cupboard or a cellar. For the next 4 to 6 weeks, you would shake the jar every day or so. During this time, the alcohol will slowly pull the medicinal compounds from the plants, and the liquid will gradually turn a deep, dark brown. After a month or more, the potent liquid is strained through a cloth to remove the plant material, and the finished tincture is rebottled, ready for use. For centuries, the effectiveness of this remedy was judged by a simple practical metric. It worked. A person in pain used it and felt better. A feverish child was given a diluted dose and their temperature dropped. This was all the proof that was needed. But today, with the tools of modern science, we can look inside this simple tincture and understand precisely why it was so effective. What our ancestors knew through observation, we can now validate through chemistry and biology. The Mountain Doctor's formula wasn't based on superstition. It was based on sophisticated, observable pharmacology. The science behind willow bark is the most well-known. As mentioned, the salicin in the bark is a natural precursor to salicylic acid. This compound works by inhibiting enzymes in the body called cyclooxygenase, or COX enzymes. These enzymes are responsible for producing prostaglandins, which are compounds that signal pain and trigger inflammation. By blocking them, salicylic acid effectively turns off the alarm system, reducing both the sensation of pain and the physical swelling associated with an injury or infection. It's the exact same mechanism of action used by aspirin, one of the most widely used drugs in the world. The eugenol in cloves has also been studied extensively. Modern research confirms it has powerful analgesic, or pain-killing, and antiseptic properties. Eugenol works in a way that is similar to local anesthetics used by dentists. It blocks the sodium channels in nerve endings. Since nerves rely on sodium ions to transmit pain signals to the brain, blocking these channels effectively stops the message from getting through. This is why it provides such rapid, localized numbing. Furthermore, studies have demonstrated that eugenol is effective at killing a wide range of bacteria and fungi, confirming its historical use as an antiseptic to prevent wound infections. Even the role of alcohol as a solvent is backed by science. The key medicinal compounds, salicin and eugenol, are more soluble in alcohol than in water. This means alcohol can extract a much higher concentration of these chemicals from the plant material, resulting in a more potent and effective medicine. A simple water-based tea of willow and clove would offer some benefits, but it would be far weaker and would spoil quickly. The alcohol-based tincture is a superior delivery system, concentrating the power of the plants and preserving it for the long term. Modern science doesn't debunk this ancient remedy, it proves our ancestors were brilliant chemists. The story of the willow and clove painkiller is more than just a fascinating piece of history. It serves as a powerful reminder of the practical, life-saving knowledge that we, as a society, have allowed to fade away. In our modern world of convenience and specialization, we have outsourced our own survival skills. We rely on complex, fragile systems for our food, our medicine, and our safety. While these systems provide incredible benefits, they can also leave us vulnerable. Rediscovering skills like this is not about rejecting modernity. It's about enriching it with the resilience and self-reliance of our past. Learning to make and use a simple remedy like this is an act of empowerment. It reconnects us to the natural world in a meaningful way, teaching us to see the plants around us not just as scenery, but as potential allies. It fosters a mindset of problem-solving and resourcefulness. Knowing that you can identify a tree and use its bark to ease pain is a profound and confidence-building experience. It's a small step toward taking back a measure of control over our own well-being, a skill that has value whether you are deep in the backcountry or simply dealing with a headache at home. This call to reclaim lost knowledge extends far beyond herbal remedies. It includes skills like gardening, food preservation, basic carpentry, navigation, and mending clothes. These were once commonplace abilities, essential for everyday life. Today they are often seen as quaint hobbies, but in a world facing increasing uncertainty, from supply chain disruptions to climate challenges, these hobbies are starting to look more and more like essential life skills. They are pathways to a more sustainable and robust way of living, one that is less dependent on fragile long-distance networks. So I invite you to be curious. Look into the old ways, read the journals, talk to the elders in your community, and walk through the woods with an eye for more than just beauty. You may not need to rely on a willow bark tincture for survival tomorrow, but the act of learning how will change your perspective. It builds a bridge to our collective past and equips us with timeless wisdom. The secrets of our ancestors are not lost forever. They are simply waiting for us to remember, to reach out, and to learn once more how to be capable, resilient, and connected to the world around us.